So here's my demonstration on how I implemented the Raycast functionality this week. I did something a little bit different than what we were shown in the webcast tutorial because I wasn't interested in making a first-person shooter game. I want to make it sort of an isometric game akin to like Diablo or Path of Exile. So what I was trying to do, or what I did was instead of doing a line trace from the camera from the point of view of the player shooting a projectile, I wanted to create a line trace from the camera to the player mesh that would check for any sort of obstructions between the two. And the reason I wanted to do that is because here's my game prior to the Raycast. I've got this building here, and if I walk into this building and I turn the corner, obviously I can't see my player anymore, and that becomes problematic. So I wanted to implement a line trace in order to have any sort of geometry in the world that's obstructing the player character hidden from in the game world. So I've got my code right here, and I've got it all commented out right now, and I want to kind of go through line by line and show you what I did. Um, the only thing that first of all, instead of having a function defined and bound to a button, I'm doing it in the tick because we need to check for geometry every frame. And I've also got a separate actor set up to save that actor. And the reason being is because once we get our line trace going, if I come in here and I've got this wall right here, and then I have it hidden from the game, and then I come back here, if I don't save that actor for in some sort of variable, well, now this wall is hidden from the game the entire rest of the playthrough. And so we don't really want that. So I've got this actor set up to save that object. Um, then the next part we have is, of course, getting our start location for the line trace, and that start location is going to be the get actor's eye viewpoint. I've got an override of the get pawn view location function in order to get the location of the camera and not the character mesh. And then the next thing I did this a little bit different. Normally, when we do a line trace, we would want to do something like trace end equals, and then we would have the trace start location plus trace end location. Or I'm sorry, trace start rotation turn to a vector, and then we'd multiply it by some sort of scalar in order to get a ray that extends from the location out to a determinate distance. I don't want that because, like I said, we have a defined line segment. That line segment is from the camera to the player. And so instead, what I did was I set the trace end to the actor location of the mesh, the actor rotation switched to a vector, and then I multiplied it by 1 because I don't want to extend it past that. So now we have a defined line segment as opposed to the normal implementation of having a starting point and extending out so far. And then, of course, got my query params trace complex set to true. And that sets up my line trace. So now's where the fun part comes in. I've got this big old long if statement here. So let's uncomment that real quick. And let's go section by section through this if statement so we can explain what's going on. The first thing we need to check is if the line trace is hitting the same actor that it was in the previous frame. And the reason we want this, I'm going to comment, the reason we want this is because let's say I'm in here, right, and I've got this wall, and then I move over here, and now the line trace is on this wall. Well, if I come back here, I want this wall to be visible again. So that's what this is checking right here is if the hit actor I'm sorry, if the hit actor object is true, so it's not null, and then if the hit actor is not what's currently being hit in the line trace, then we're going to set the hit actor hidden in game to false. So add the we're going to unhide the previous actor. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check if the currently hit actor has a tag. So I've tagged my scenery already. So if we come here, we're just gonna click this, and then we're gonna come over here and search for tags. I've got a tag set up pretty much for all of the scenery in the game that could possibly get hit by the line trace, in order to check if it's got that tag. If it does have that tag, then the hit actor is set to the new actor, and then that one is hidden in the game world. Now, the next part, the last part rather, is that if we are not if we do not have a line trace hitting anything, and we don't have a line trace hitting anything if we're not if we're not hitting any geometry. The reason that the player doesn't matter is because that's where the line ends. So it's actually not hitting the player per se. That's where it ends. So it's not detecting that hit. And so we need to check if we have a valid hit actor and that hit actor has the tag. I'm sorry. Yeah. Um, So I can probably get rid of this because I'm checking this up here. I'm not going to mess with that right now because I haven't tested it. But I probably don't need this because we've already checked for scenery. But if we have a hit actor and we're not line tracing anymore, then we're going to set that hidden actor to false because we're not line tracing anymore. There's no reason for it to be hidden. And then we're going to set the hit actor to null. That way, and we're doing this so that this actor is not constantly being reset to unhidden every frame. So it's just doing it once, and then we're setting it to null. Excuse me, setting it to null. And then, of course, I've got my job debug line so that we can see the line trace. And that's what's going on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to compile all this so that I have all my comments, or I'm sorry, so that everything was no longer commented, and then I'll be back and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so everything compiled, everything looks good. I did want to note that I went ahead and took out this check for the tag after we're done line tracing. I went ahead and tested it, and everything works as expected. So yeah, I was right. I was right that we didn't need this after the line trace is complete. Because part of the requirement in order to assign the hit actor in the first place is for the scenery, so we don't need to check it again. So I've got everything commented or uncommented. Sorry, did that again, and checked and everything compiled. So let's see what we got. And so here's my player, and if I start moving, I've got that line trace going from the camera to the player. And if I come in here, now that wall is gone. And if I come back out, wall comes back. I come this way, this wall's gone. Come back, ceiling, yeah. And if you saw, so if I'm line tracing here, and then I come over here to this wall, that wall comes back, and that's why we're checking if the line trace has a new actor, then we want the old actor to be unhidden. And yeah, everything looks to be working fine. I did notice though that if I come over here and I run along this wall, I'm making the first wall disappear but not the second one. I gotta do some research and see what I need to do to make that happen. But other than that, everything looks good. I've got this big wall over here, and you can't really tell that it's going unhidden because the camera's like in the wall. But if you come over here, there's like this little silhouette up in the corner over here, and if I come too far over, the silhouette goes away because you can tell there that the wall is being hidden. And then the last thing I did is we didn't. It's not part of the line trace, but I just thought it was fun. We worked on a scene transition last week, so I added that scene transition to this big old long walkway right here. I don't have the transition back to the other world yet. It's going to be something I'm gonna probably work on in my free time. I want to do one more demo, taking the debug line out of the comment the debug line out so we can kind of see it cleanly. So let me do that real quick and then compile, and I'll be back for one more demo. Okay, so I commented the debug line out now, and we're ready to give this one last shot. So here I come in here, and there you have it. Line trace makes the object hidden. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.